Okay, so last week was Mardi Gras, and it was the day before Ash Wednesday, and it was Discount Tuesday. I saw Ant-Man and the Wasp and the Quantumania, and I just, with Mardi Gras festivities going on, I wasn't able to review the movie last week, but I did just get back from seeing Cocaine Bear tonight. I figured I could make this the first double movie review of 2023. So it's him and the Wasp and Ant-Man's daughter, Cassie. Cassie, she makes the Quantumanium device, and the whole Ant fam is basically sucked into the quantum realm. There's this huge underground civilization. They meet Kang, is gonna be next Thanos, and a whole adventure goes down from there. And in all honesty, I wasn't really that excited for this film. Don't get me wrong, I love Paul Rudd as Ant-Man, and he's always has been great as Ant-Man, and always will be great as Ant-Man, and he is once again here. And the film looked decent, like visually speaking, but in all honesty, I feel like I'm not alone when I say this. I've been feeling the MCU fatigue for quite some time now. MCU projects, like whether it's movies or TV shows to Disney Plus, that get shut out so much nowadays, and it's becoming so oversaturated, in my opinion at least, that it's become more like quantity over quality, and that's what Ant-Man and that's what Quantumania feels like, because the first two Ant-Man films were really great, were really good films, because they felt like smaller scale MCU films, not smaller budget necessarily, but just like smaller scale, and that was what made it special. Like, hey, he's a little hero, Ant-Man, he shrinks and he fights bad guys, but this film is like, there's so much going on at once with him and Cassie and his family and all these different characters and the Quantumania and Kang. I mean, Kang is the standout in this film, so I'm really curious as to where they're going next. But MODOK is in this movie, and I'm just like, why does MODOK need to be in this film? Like, every time he's on screen, he looks ridiculous. Like, the CGI for him isn't that great, and it's just he tries to be like comic relief. And Cassie's just like, she becomes like the stereotypical like Mary Sue character. Honestly, they didn't even bring back the original actress for Cassie, which I think is a huge disappointment. They should have kept the original actress, because Cassie does a lot of questionable things, where her father was a criminal and a fugitive and to learn how to be a hero on his own. Well, she just apparently figures out how to make this device like lickety split while he's off fighting Thanos. She just becomes a genius at quantum physics, like lickety split, and it seems just very shoehorned, because she's the strong female character, so she's gotta she can't roll with any punches. It's like she has just everything handheld on a silver platter or something like that. And the film, in all honesty, it just gets boring. And the second act, I found myself falling asleep. The last fight scene was pretty cool, but compared to other MCU final battles, there just wasn't that much at stake, which is kind of ironic, because this is supposed to be the most important MCU film since Endgame. Yeah, No Way Home was kind of supposedly the most important MCU film, but let's be frank, that was more the most important Spider-Man film than an MCU film. But yeah, and Quantumania, this is bottom tier MCU films, if you ask me. In all honesty, the worst MCU movies, I still don't really have a pick for absolute worst MCU film of all time, because the worst MCU movies, in my opinion at least, are just meh at the worst. Thor: Dark World, Captain Marvel, Black Widow. I don't dislike those movies necessarily, they're not bad, in my opinion at least. I just found them very meh, and I consider Quantumania down there. Since this is Pokemon week, I gave, yesterday, I made my video giving my first impression on Pokemon Violet, and Sunday I made a video singing along to the Johto theme song. This is kind of the third video of Pokemon week, because I really wanted to compare, the MCU and what it's turned into Pokemon in a weird sense. The Infinity Saga, the first three phases of the MCU, being introduced Captain America, and Iron Man, and Thor, and Hulk, and the Guardians of the Galaxy, and of course the Avengers, and Age of Ultron, which led up to Civil War, and Black Panther, and then to Infinity War, and then Endgame. That feels like the first start of a Pokemon game, going through the gyms, fighting Team Rocket, and going and catching legendary Pokemon, and then Elite Four, you face Elite Four, and then Endgame is facing Cynthia, or the champion, after the Elite Four, and it's such an epic final boss fight, and you're yes, I beat the game. Phases 4 and 5 feel like the post-game after a Pokemon game in the MCU, and it's just not as exciting as the first three phases. Yeah, the post-game in Pokemon, you can go off to different islands, there's roaming Pokemon, there's more legendaries, you got a national Pokedex, but again, those are all just side quests. There's albeit there's a handful of really great side quests like No Way Home and Shang-Chi, but at the same time, the whole thing just doesn't feel as special now that you've defeated the champion. That's what the MCU, like, in recent years has felt like it's turned into for me. Like, yeah, I kind of wish that everything, Endgame just tied everything full circle, and yeah, I loved Far From Home and No Way Home and Shang-Chi, but for every, like, great MCU film we've had since then, there's been some, like, there's just been mostly just, like, passable or just mediocre MCU films, in my opinion at least, and I just feel like this franchise is past its golden age. So on my scale of like 0 to 9, I'm giving Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania 4 out of 9 stars. It's a meh film. Alright, let's talk about Cocaine Bear, the latest action comedy somewhat based on true events where like drug dealers throw cocaine out of a planet, lands in the Georgia forest, and a black bear eats it and gets absolutely blitzed off of cocaine and just goes on a bloody murderous rampage on everyone in the forest. This film is based on true events. I did do some research as into like the true story behind this film, and this film is mostly fictional. The opening like 10 minutes where yes, there were drug dealers in the 80s where one of the dealers jumps out of the airplane, but his parachute fails and he dies and hits the ground, and there's like $14 million worth of cocaine just sitting in the woods. Excuse me. And the black bear just eats it. That part is true, but what's not true is the rampage that follows where the bear is just totally like high on cocaine and just goes around eating people. No, the bear in real life, back in the 80s in Georgia actually died of a coke overdose, which I really hope doesn't surprise anybody considering, bears, they're in the same mammalians, like the carnivorous suborder as dogs. And you look at dogs, coffee and chocolate and grapes are poison for dogs. So imagine what cocaine would do to a bear, of all things, like for goodness sake. So yeah, the bear in real life, it did die of a cocaine overdose. And apparently it was stuffed, it was taxidermied, and it's to this day it's out on display in a mall in Kentucky, and there's like apparently an entire like cocaine bear themed like clothes there. But anyway, that's off topic. I can't judge a movie inspired on true events, like as an adaptation of a true story. I gotta look at it on its own terms. And did I have fun with Cocaine Bear? Yes. I saw a trailer for this movie, I was like, okay, this movie looks so ridiculous, but that's why I want to see it. I walked into this movie, it's supposed to be an action comedy with a bear. I was like, you know what? I just kind of want to turn off my brain and just let this movie amuse me by any means necessary. It did succeed in doing that? Yes. I found myself very engaged. I was like, whenever the bear was like ripping dudes apart, and I was just like, yes, keep doing it. When the film tried to be funny, I saw this movie, on Tuesday night, it's Discount Tuesday, as a pretty crowded theater. Everyone next to me was laughing, myself included. There's a lot of just ridiculous, silly moments that happen here. O'Shea Jackson Jr. plays a drug dealer. The biggest issue I have with this movie, I feel like there's too many human characters when really I want to just spend more time with the bear and just follow the bear more, just like, eating people and doing coke. But we keep going back to the characters. It's like, there's a drug dealers, there's a police officer trying to find the coke, they're both trying to find the coke, and then there's a mom trying to find her kid that's lost in the woods, and there's this random European tourist who's lost in the woods too. There's there's paramedics that show up at some point. There's too many human characters that just don't get the development that they deserve, and there's teenagers in the woods too. It's just like, can we just focus more on the bear, please? It's supposed to be like a man versus nature sort of action comedy, so those movies to me at least work more when it's usually just it follows one human and protagonist versus the force of nature has to deal with, in this case the bear. But all things considered, Cocaine Bear, don't expect, if you decide to miss it, I wouldn't say you're really missing out on that much. It is a very ridiculous run-of-the-mill action comedy. But at the same time, if you do decide to see Cocaine Bear, I'd say you're in for a solid time because, again, it's a ridiculous, coked-out bear action comedy. So yeah, I'm giving Cocaine Bear a 5 out of 9 stars. It's a passable film. Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, and Cocaine Bear. Have you seen these two films? Let me know what your thoughts in the comments down below. Did you like them, dislike them, like one, not like the other, or did you love them both, did you hate them both? Let me know in the comments. And subscribe to my channel, please. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, stay beastly.